until the wall disappeared behind the houses on the other side of the road. Between the backyards of the neighborhood and the base of the ravine grew a thin forest of trees. Their new house was near the dead end of the dead-end street, on the side of the road where the ravine was tallest. The house was a red salt box with black shutters and a black door. On top of the roof was a metal weather vane shaped like a walking pilgrim that had aged into a pale green. The house looked like it dated to colonial times, but it had been built only a few decades ago. Most of the houses in the neighborhood were like that, built to reflect an older New England. On one side of their new house was a gray house similar to their own, and on the other side was a forested lot that had never been cleared. The closest house on that side was a white one at the very tip of the dead end. It was set halfway up the ravine, which was a gentle slope at that point. Noe's new school was somewhere behind that white house, on the other side of the forested slope. She could walk there in minutes. That meant no bus, no parents dropping her off, and sleeping in until the last possible moment. Another reason to be happy with this move. But summer was no time for school thoughts. What Noe wasn't happy with was helping Dad carry in all the moving boxes from the rental truck that was parked in their driveway. The furniture had been carried into the house yesterday by the movers Dad had hired, but he wanted to save money on the boxes and smaller items. Len was too young to help, so that left her and Mom and Dad to lug boxes, which they started doing immediately after they arrived. The house was larger than their old house. 2 floors and a basement, 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. The first floor was laid out in a circle, so you could run around forever without hitting a wall. The bedrooms were all on the second floor. Noe dropped a box full of clothes onto the wide pine planks of her bedroom floor, wiped her forehead, and looked around. Blank walls and a bare floor and 2 windows. Soon her dog posters would cover the walls and her furniture would cover the floor. She stared out one of the windows. A large backyard, perfect for a dog, stretched flat and green and almost featureless, except for a large stone-ringed fire pit to one side. The yard ended at that thin strip of forest at the base of the ravine. Behind their house, the forest thickened and continued through a gap in the ravine wall and into a large forest preserve. Even though they were still in town, only a mile from the nearest grocery store, in fact, it felt like they were in the middle of nowhere. When Noe looked out the windows in the back of the house, it looked like they lived in a forest. When she looked out the windows at the front of the house, it looked like they lived in a neighborhood. It had to be the strangest street in town. Noe could barely make out the face of the ravine through all the foliage, and couldn't at all make out the houses perched atop the ravine, which faced the opposite direction. Dad said that during winter, when the trees were bare, they'd have a clear view of the backs of those houses, and that hopefully everybody up there used curtains. Noe herself couldn't wait for fall, when the maple and oak and birch trees would burn into bright reds and oranges and yellows around them. At the old house, they'd only had a few scraggly bushes and an ugly telephone pole in their yard. As she walked back downstairs and into the living room, she passed Mom, who was pushing a hand truck stacked with 3 boxes, each labeled dining room. "Looks like you have a welcoming committee outside," said Mom, stopping in front of Noe. "What?" "There are kids out there. Looks like they're waiting to meet you. Go be neighborly." She angled the handcart to let Noe pass. "Don't worry, I'll save you some boxes to carry." Noe walked over to one of the windows that overlooked the front lawn. The house was set far enough back from the street that it felt separated from the rest of the neighborhood. At the edge of the lawn, like they were afraid of trampling the grass, stood 3 girls. They weren't moving, or talking, or looking around. They just stared at the house. "Creepy," Noe said.